Hi, if the water is sipping out a bit slowly in your bathroom sink and it looks something like this underneath, then this is how you clean the drain and make the water flow down it like normal again. Also, since I am a big fan of authenticity, this sink has not been cleaned in way too long, so you're about to witness some really gross stuff. You have been warned. Tool-wise, this is one of those take what you've got kind of jobs, but one necessity is definitely some kind of a bucket or container for keeping the floor from getting wet and gross. You'll probably also want something tall and thin, like a screwdriver you don't mind cleaning afterwards, some steel wire, or in my case here, a couple of thin and tall cable ties, because that's what I found lying around, to get down a bit into the drain pipes. So basically what you got at home here. Also nice to have some cleaning gloves and a roll of toilet paper nearby. Lastly, you can of course clean everything straight in the sink that you are dealing with. However, since there will be no bottom lid on it, the water from the tap will just go straight through. So if you're doing this approach, a big bucket underneath is a good thing to have. Or even better, and if you have the option to, like I'm going to do here, clean the piping parts in another sink or the shower or something like that. Alright, let's go. First, if you feel a little bit unsure where to put everything pipe-wise when you are done, it's actually a good thing here to just take a picture of the plumbing situation underneath your specific sink here before proceeding. Usually taking this apart and putting it back together is fairly easy, but for reference when putting it back, it can be nice to have something to look at. Now we start by placing our bucket underneath the drain and move on to unscrew the bottom lid. When we do this, some water will come pouring out into our bucket. We'll then put the lid to the side for now and continue with unscrewing the two caps holding the bottle trap in place. At least I think it's called a bottle trap, and that's what I'm going to call it from now on in this video, so sorry if it's the wrong actual name. The bottle trap is basically a variant of the so-called P-trap, that is a plumbing part used both for stopping odor from the drain pipes to travel upwards, as well as that it also collects gross stuff and at the same time preventing it from clogging the actual drain pipes in the wall and in the ground. Then we pull the bottle trap away from the pipe coming from the wall and from the one coming from the sink, like so. Here again, be prepared with your bucket, especially if you, like me, haven't cleaned the sink in a while. Then we put the bottle trap to the side and get to work on the piping in the actual sink. This whole procedure can basically be done in whatever order you prefer, but here I start with unscrewing the plug in the sink. These ones sometimes also just pulls out depending on what your sink looks like and what type of plug you have in it. Then we just clean around the hole here with some wet paper and any cleaning solution you prefer. Then we make sure our bucket is safely stashed underneath the drain pipe and then start probing the drain with our, in this case, cable ties, making sure here to get as much gross stuff as possible to fall out underneath. We also poke the cable ties in through the bottom of the pipe here to try and scoop up and away as much as possible of, well, stuff. We then clean the pipe coming from the wall as well as the one coming from the sink and try and get as much dirt and grime away from them as possible. Having the bucket underneath, we can also flush some water through the top pipe here to loosen stuck stuff while also poking down the pipe at the same time. Then, in this case in another sink, we move our focus to the lid plug and a bottle trap. Here we first remove as much of the bigger chunks of yuck as possible using normal toilet paper. To get the bigger stuck stuff out from the inside, semi-carefully tapping the bottle trap against a surface, in this case the sink, usually does the trick. And then we just wipe away the biggest chunks to prevent them from clogging this sink and drain as well. After this, it is basically just a matter of cleaning the parts as much as possible using whatever tools you have in your disposal. I usually find that a pair of cleaning gloves, some soap and hot water does a fair job here. And after a little while of cleaning, the parts are starting to look a bit better. So now let's put everything back together. Here we start by mounting the bottle trap, making sure that the rubber gaskets, the black ring parts, are where they're supposed to be. Then we screw the fastening pieces onto the bottle trap, making sure it sits snugly. And then the bottom lid goes on as well. Here make sure to put it on all the way, otherwise it usually is the first thing that leaks. We then perform a little test to spot any potential leaks. Whereupon then the sink plug goes back in up the top and then we are actually done. Sweet, well done. Hopefully the water is now leaving your sink a little bit quicker. Please though share any thoughts or questions in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching. Bye.